Hi, welcome to the next training session of SAP FI CO module. Today we'll be doing settlement of internal orders, which is a part of SAP controlling module. Settlement in internal order is the process of moving cost incurred on a sender object to one or more receiving objects. In case of internal order, costs are incurred on the other through goods issued or receipts, journal entries, internal activity, allocations, other settlements, and settled to a cost center, internal order, or fixed cost, or an account which refers to a ledger account, just to name a few. So once the costs are booked into an internal order, after the completion of the project or the job or activity, the cost has to be settled to any of the cost object or a fixed asset or like something like such. The settlement of an internal order can be to a true account or object and have a true impact on FI module. Settlement is the process of moving the cost incurred on a sender object to one or more of the receiving objects. As said, that means if the cost has been received have been taken up on the internal order, it has to be settled with some of the other objects in the SAP controlling part. Now moving on, in this particular part there are three configuration steps that we have to do. They are, so in settlement, as you can see on the screen, we are on the last part of the internal order. In settlement we will be doing maintain allocation structures, maintain settlement profiles, and maintain number ranges for settlement documents. And after completion of these configuration steps, we will be moving up to the end user testing part, where we'll be posting the transactions and will settle those transactions of internal order with any of the other cost objects or maybe a ledger account or fixed asset, and we'll see how those settlements are done in the SAP system. So moving on to the first configuration step, that is to maintain allocation structures. Allocation is the main component of settlement profile. The settlement structure defines the what and how of the settlement process. Allocation structure purpose is twofold. One is to define which cost elements on the order can be settled. This group of cost element is called the origin. And the second, to determine which cost element called the settlement cost element will be used to debit and credit the sending order and receiving order. There are basically two types of allocations. One is distribution and the second is assessment. So an allocation structure comprises one or several settlement assignments. An assignment shows which cost, that is origin cost element group, from the debit cost elements are to be settled to which receiver type. For example, cost center, order, or it may be activity type, any of them it can be settled with. Now as talked about, there are two kinds of allocation. One is distribution, another is assessment. In distribution, the following information is passed on to the receiver. One is the original primary cost element is retained. Sender and receiver information is documented with line items in the CO document through distribution. Whereas moving on to the assessment, the following information is passed on to the receiver. One is original cost elements are grouped together into assessment cost element, that is the secondary cost element. The original cost element are not displayed on the receiver, and the sender and the receiver information is displayed in the CO document only. In fact, each allocation structure must fulfill few criteria. One is completeness. An allocation structure is assigned to each object to be settled. All cost elements in which costs are incurred must be represented in the appropriate allocation structure. And the second criteria is uniqueness. Each cost element in which costs are incurred may only appear once in an allocation structure. Only one settlement cost element may be assigned to a source within a particular allocation structure. Note, when you settle to materials, you do not need to create settlement cost element. Settlement cost element over here refers to the secondary cost element. Now let's see how we can configure or we can maintain an allocation structure in the SAP system. So the configuration path is on your screen along with the transaction code. You can use any of them so as to maintain the allocation structure in the SAP system. Now moving on to the configuration steps with regard to maintain allocation structure, let's move on to the SAP system. So moving on to the SAP screen. So now moving to the SAP path, we first need to go to the SP arrow, enter, then SAP reference IMG. In that we need to go to controlling, and in controlling we need to go to internal orders. Now within internal orders we need to go to actual postings, and in actual postings now we need to go to settlement and then maintain allocation structures. So there is settlement, and in settlement you can see over here maintain allocation structure. So the path is simple. We first need to go to the internal orders, then to actual postings, then settlement, and then maintain allocation structures. Now we can execute this maintain allocation structure over here, and as we have executed now, the system will take you to the next screen. As you can see on your screen, it says change view allocation structures overview. Now in this particular part we need to create our own allocation structure. So to create our own allocation structure, now we will be creating a new entries on the screen. So we can go to new entries over here and we can create a new entry for our own company, and the new entry can be of 2 digits. So I take it as ZA, and we can name it as 1200. That is the company code. Settlement structure. Once we have done this, now what we need to do is we need to save this screen so that this structure can be created. Now once we have saved this structure, you can see the data is saved. Now we need to select the allocation structure over here, and we need to go to the assignment and double click onto the assignment part. So as you double click on the assignment, it will take you to the next screen. As you can see, the screen is blank. So the settlement assessment assignment part is uniquely defines the combination of origin and settlement cost element. It is important at this juncture to have your settlement strategy defined for the order type that will be used or that will be using the settlement structure. Your strategy will have a direct impact on the depth of the assignment development. You can implement a simple strategy resulting in all order cost being grouped under one origin and settled to one account. Or you may choose a complex strategy which with each unique cost types like labor or material and consulting, for example, being settled to a separate settlement account. So it is up to you how you want to move up over here from here onwards. What is your strategy for the settlement? So in this particular part, we need to assign the assignment. So for assigning the assignment, we first need to go to the new entries. So now we'll be moving to the new entry over here. So now moving on to the new entries, we can see that the assignment and the text fields are blank. So we need to fill in the following fields. One is the assignment, which is known as the settlement assignment. This field is used by SAP to define the settlement activity. In this, you have to enter the ID, which can be up to 3 character long for the allocation assignment. So suppose I take the 3 characters 010, and now we need to move to the text part. Here we need to enter the allocation assignment description. So let's take the description as settlement of cost element. And now once I have defined the assignment and the description, we can move on and we can save this screen. So now the assignment has been done. Now within this assignment, we need to select the assignment over here. And now after selecting, we need to move on to the next, that is the source. So after assignment, the source has to be assigned in this screen now. So we can double click onto the source. So once I double click onto the source, now it asks you the controlling area. So the controlling area will be taken as Z100. Respectively, you can have your own controlling area which you have created. Enter. Now once entered, you can see the next screen comes to you is for the source, and in the source you have to assign that what are the different cost element which will be taken in this. So within the source, you have to define the cost element group or individual cost elements range, which cost can be settled by the settlement assignment. Both primary and secondary cost element can be contained within the group. To establish the origin, place your cursor on the settlement assignment, and once you have selected your assignment, we have double click onto the source so as to reach over here. So now over here we have got two options. One is to define the range of cost element from and to, or else we can assign the cost element group as well. So both the options are there, whichever you want to take as of now. So suppose we take the cost element from and to range. So let's select the cost element, the chart of account, that is 1000. Enter. So now there are different cost elements as you can see on your screen. So suppose I take the cost element from 400000 till 9. So double click onto this, and now I take it from this to 9. So I have taken all the cost elements which are there for all the expenses as of now in the system, so as to be settled with this particular assignment. So once this cost element has been assigned, now we can move on and we can save the screen. So saved. So now that data is saved over here on the screen, as you can see. Now we can go back. So one step you have to go back, and as you move back, you can see in the above screen that now the overlapping checkbox over here now has become green in color. If you put your cursor on this particular option, you will find that it shows you OK. So this is how your overlapping part has been done, overlapping check. and the overlapping check should become green. If it has been green, that means your configuration is successful. Now once this has been done, we need to move on to the last option over here, settlement cost elements. So the settlement cost elements, we can double click onto that. Okay, we need to select this assignment, and then we have to click onto the settlement cost element. So you mind it, you need to select this assignment over here, then only we can click onto the settlement cost elements. So double click onto the settlement cost elements, and now it take you to the next part, that is change view settlement cost elements overview. Now the settlement cost element is the section of settlement assignment that determines the cost elements posted to both sender and receiver during the settlement. There are two types of settlement, one is internal settlement and another is external settlement. Internal settlement refers to the type of settlement in which postings are internal to the controlling module. An example is any order settlement in which the receiver is another CO object like cost center or cost object, or maybe a COPA segment, or maybe an activity type, because the postings never cross into the FI module or any other module. This is within the controlling module itself. So for this particular part, for the internal settlement, you must use a secondary cost element to facilitate the postings within the CO module. The original account assignment on the order, such as a goods receipt posting, is maintained and forms the bridge between the CO and the FI module. Whereas in the external settlement, this refers to the type of settlement in which postings are external to CO module. An example of an external settlement is one in which the receiver is a GL account instead of any of the cost object, or maybe there could be a fixed asset. Because the settlement results in a cross into FI, you must have to use a real or a primary cost element in this case. The original account posting is also maintained in the example, but a second posting would be added. So you have to take care that in the internal, a secondary cost element is been taken because it is internal within the CO module, where an internal controlling document is generated. But whereas in the external settlement, it is outside the internal part. That means it involves a primary cost element, because the settlement is done with a ledger account or a fixed asset. So over there a financial FI document is generated, and with respect to that a CO document is also generated in the controlling part. So now moving on to this particular settlement cost elements, we need to go for a new entry in this case also. So we need to go to click on to the new entries. So once you have selected the new entries, now we need to go to the receiver category. If you remember, we need to select the receiver category over here for the settlement. So the receiver category over here will be CTR for cost center settlement. We can double click on that, and you need to select this by cost element. That means whenever a settlement will take place, it will take place with respect to the cost element. There has to be a cost element, whether it is a primary or a secondary, doesn't matter. So you have to check box this mark, this cost element part over here. So receiver category basically defines which object is a valid receiver for the settlement assignment. Once you have selected the receiver category and you have mark the checkbox or by cost element, now we can save the screen, and the settlement of cost element is also been done. So data was saved. So this is what you need to do. And moving on to the one left, that is assessment cost element. If you double click onto the assessment cost element, now it takes you to the next screen over here in the assessment cost element part. The assessment cost element is the final section of settlement assignment. It determines the cost elements posted to both the sender and the receiver during the settlement. However, we don't need to do anything in this particular part. Even if you want, there is no need of that to be done anything in it, because it has not been used as a part of the settlement. So this is what you need to do. We have created an allocation structure, then we define the assignment, then selecting the assignment and defining the source and the settlement cost elements. And once these all have been done, now we can go back. And once you go back again, you can see over here that this green overlap is there. That is what has to be there. And now the configuration is over for the maintain allocation. So we have completed the maintain allocation structure for the settlement. Now moving on to the next configuration step, that is maintain settlement profile. In the settlement profile, you define a range of control parameters for settlement. You must define the settlement profile before you can enter a settlement rule for a sender. The settlement profile includes, among other things, the retention period for the settlement documents. So the settlement profile is the component of order configuration that provides the order type with the details of how it can settle its cost. It accomplishes this by controlling how a settlement rule can be defined for a given order. The settlement profile is an accumulation of all the other areas of settlement, as well as the addition of new pieces of customization not yet seen. Each order type can have a different settlement profiles, but each must have one assigned. So how we can maintain this settlement, we have to look for that. So if you want to settle the cost each time to just one cost center or just one GL account, you need a settlement profile. As you cannot maintain the settlement parameter during the settlement to a receiver, you must save a settlement profile either in the order type or in the model order or a reference order. So you must bear in mind that these things has to be maintained. The settlement document take up the additional storage capacity when a posting period is finally logged against further postings in the financial accounting. So let's see how we can maintain a settlement profile in the SAP system. So the path is again there and the transaction code is also there. So let's move on to the SAP screen, and on the very next to the maintain allocation structure, you can find the maintain settlement profiles. Just after a couple of steps down, you can see that maintain settlement profile is there. The path is again same. Within the settlement, we need to go to maintain settlement profiles. So once you find this, we need to move and execute this particular step. So executing it. So once executed, you will find a pop-up screen which shows you two options. One is to enter the settlement profile in order type, and the second is to maintain the settlement profile. So in this, we need to go and double click on the maintain settlement profiles. So once I double click onto it, it take me to the next screen, change view settlement profile overview, and you can see there are a number of different settlement profiles already defined. What we need to do is we need to create our own settlement profile. So we'll be going to the new entries. So click on to the new entries. So once I have selected onto the new entries, now we need to define a so we need to take a settlement profile ID which can be of 6 characters, or it could be alphanumeric. So suppose I take it as Z110, sorry, suppose I take it as Z01200 followed by the company code, and I can put the description to it, and that could be internal order settlement profile. So this is what I have put the description. Now moving to the next section, that is actual cost oblique cost of sales. Now this relates to the overall control of the order in relation to when it may be closed or archived. So the first is to be settled in full. Now to be settled in full setting forces the value of the order to be of $0 before it can be closed. SAP will return a hard error if a user tries to close the order with a balance in it. So the order has to be 0, because most companies prefer to see this operating expenses in the cost center accounting. The majority of internal orders falls into this category. Also, when integrating with investment management, it is important to choose this option so that the balance sheet calculations are accurate. So in this particular part, we need to select the to be settled in full option on the screen. Can be settled is a second part, but it is not mandatory, and even it should not be preferred. Not for settlement is another part which is not preferred. Now moving to the next section is default values. So within the default values, it relates to how the order will determine what cost elements are valid for settlement and how postings will occur. So in this, you need to select the allocation structure first. So the allocation structure is the same which we have just created a while back in the last configuration step, and the allocation structure we defined was ZA, if you remember, followed by the company code. So this is the ZA is the allocation structure which we have created in the last step. Even we have created the source structure, so we can even select the source structure over here as well. So if you move on to select the source structure, the source structure is not there as of now. So as of this is not required, because from the allocation structure only everything will be picked, the source and the settlement profile and everything. The next part is PA transfer structure. Now even this is not mandatory. Moving to the next is default and not required even. Default object type. This field provides the order with a defaulting receiver object type during the settlement rule creation. So whether you want to settle it on the receiver side with the cost center or with the internal order or with a profitability segment, that has to be defined over here. So we need to select with what will be the receiver order in this part, receiver type. So we can select from the list of different objects type in this. So the one which we will be receiving is cost center. However, there could be different receiver objects in this. As you can see on the screen, there can be a cost object, cost center, assets, GL account, material, network, order item, even profitability segments. So the one which we will be taking as of now is the cost center, and that has been selected over here. Moving to the next now is the indicators. Now in the indicator part, There are number of different options as you can see on the screen, because it relates to how you define the dollar values to be settled. So if you want 100% validation, you need to select to that. So 100% validation means that SAP will check to make sure that all the cost will be settled by the rules the user have established on the order. If less than or greater than 100% of the cost are not covered by the rules, SAP will return a warning when the order is saved. So we'll be selecting this overall settlement should be equal to 100%. The next is percentage settlement. Now again, this field, if we make this field active, the user can maintain the settlement rules on the order that determines the order value by percentage as well. So we'll be selecting this, and you can decide the settlement as per the percentages as well if this particular percentage settlement is active. The next is equivalence numbers. In this part, the user can use equivalence numbers as an alternative to the percentage. If it is easier for the user to set up a proportionate as opposed to the calculating percentage, that can be done. So you can decide even the proportionate settlement, so that again can be taken up over here as a part of it. So these are the different options which you can take, and the another option now is the amount settlement. In the amount settlement, the user can establish the settlement rules with the dollar value amount. And the next last one is the variances to the costing based PA, that is profitability index. So that we will not be taking up, because as of now the profitability analysis has not been implemented. So we need to select the first three options over here in the indicator part. Now moving to the valid receivers. Now in the valid receiver part, you need to decide that which of these different receivers you want to activate as an optional part. So normally in any practical scenario, normally the settlement is done with the GL, so that can be taken up as an optional. Cost center is taken as a settlement part, then the order is taken as a settlement part, and even a fixed asset can be taken as a settlement part. So these are the four options which is normally been taken for the internal order settlement to be done with. Now moving up to the other parameters, now is the document type. So whenever an external settlement take place, an accounting document is generated. So you need to decide whether that particular accounting document which will be generated will be with what document type. You can even create a Z document type for the same, or in normal cases we use SA as a document type in such scenario. The next is the maximum number. So again, in the maximum number of settlement rules has to be put up over here. So the maximum number you can put is 999. That's the maximum you can create as a rule in the SAP system. So this provides the order with the maximum number of settlement rules the user can maintain. The maximum number is 999. Although 999 may not always be practical, you can do harm to your productivity if you do not maintain a high enough number. So better is to maintain a high number over here, so that you can maintain any number of rules in the SAP system as required. Now the last part comes up is the residence time. This field determines how long in months the settlement document must be retained in the SAP system before it can be archived. Consult the company policy for the proper settings as per the client or as per the company, what they want, whether they want to archive it within 6 months or a year or a 2 year, or how much time they want it to be. Once, suppose I take it as to be now as 24 months as an archive time. So once this has been done, you can save the screen and your settlement profile will be defined. So you can save this, and you can see the data was saved. That means the profile has been completed. So once the settlement profile has been created, now we have completed with the maintain settlement profile, and we can move on to the next configuration step, that is maintain number ranges for settlement documents. Now in this case, the settlement documents, the number range assignment is done at the controlling area level. So you need to maintain the number, because whenever the settlement is done, the document numbers are generated internally, and for them the number range has to be assigned. So for defining the or maintaining the number range for the settlement documents, we now move to the next step, and that is maintaining the number range in the path. We can close this pop-up screen now. And now in this particular part, to create the number range, you can see the maintain number range for settlement document very next to the maintain settlement profile. One after that, maintain number ranges for settlement documents. Now we can execute this option over here, and once executed, you can see the screen. Now in this, again we have to create the number range in the same manner as we have been creating for the different number ranges for the CO objects. So the first step would be to create a group number range to which your controlling area can be assigned. So for creating a group number range, we need to move up to the group, maintain. You need to click onto this. Once you have clicked onto this, now we need to go to group, insert. So once I click onto the insert, now I need to maintain the text and the number range. So suppose I maintain the text over here as settlement documents for IBM LLB or LLC. Now you can define the number range over here, whichever you want to maintain with, and the number range we can maintain over here can start with 4. So let's take up with 24009. So this is what we have assigned the number range over here, and now we can insert it. So once inserting, now you can see the number range has been inserted. So once the number range has been inserted, now we can move on to this not assigned part, and we can select this 2600, double click on it, and it will be selected. So now I want to assign this particular number range to the settlement. So we need to select the settlement document for IBM LLC. Now once we have selected this, now we can move to click onto this element group. So once we click onto this element group, the not assigned number range, not assigned part will get assigned to the settlement document for IBM. Now we can move on and we can select onto the assign element group. So once click onto it, you can see now that the number range has moved from over here to over here and has been assigned. And now we can save the screen. And once we have clicked onto the save, you can see the number range have been saved. So this is how you would be creating your settlement part, and the configuration has been done. Now we'll be moving to the unit testing part, where we'll be looking forward that how a settlement can be done from an internal order to the another cost object or a GL account or an fixed asset as well. So now moving on to the unit testing part, let's first create an internal order with the transaction code KO01. And once we create an internal order, then we need to release the internal order as well. If you don't release the internal order, you will not be able to use it for any of the transactions. So moving on to KO01 first, /n, CO01, enter. Now in this we can create an internal order. So for creating an internal order, first of all we have to put the order type under which we want to create the internal order. So the internal order type over here is 1100. Now we can enter on the screen and it take us to the next screen now. So we can define the next part over here, like the internal order number can be assigned. We can take it as like admin, transport, or in fact we can take an internal order as like trade fair 1100 as a code, as a description part of it. And then we can select the company code. Then we need to select the object class, and we can select the profit center if you know with which particular profit center this particular internal order is related to. So if you remember, if you know the exact profit center, you can assign the profit center, and if you don't know, you can leave the profit center as blank. So suppose I am taking the profit center as 21000, enter. And you can take the other respective fields. All are optional depending upon your requirement. If you know that whether this particular internal order is related to a particular plant or a business area, you can decide that as well. Else you can leave it blank and you can save it now. Nothing else has to be filled on any of the other tabs. So we'll be saving it and the internal order will be created. So you can see the order was created with the number 1004. Now we have created the internal order 1004, but we need to release this internal order. So for releasing the internal order, the next transaction is KO02. So moving to the next transaction /n KO02, but you must remember that the order to be released is 1004. Enter. So you can see the number has automatically been generated. If in case it is not been generated, you need to fill it over here as 1004, then enter. This is for change internal order. And in this, now to release the internal order, we need to go to control data, and in control data we need to click onto this release order option. So once we click onto this release order option, it will be released. So you can see the order has been released now. So once released, we can save this the internal order, and the internal order has been changed. So this is how you have completed the first two transactions. Now we will be posting certain transactions with respect to the internal order so that certain values can be accumulated into the internal order, and then we will be going for the settlement of that. So moving to the transaction now, we can execute the transaction with any of the transactions like FB50. You can even take with FB60 also. So moving to the transaction FB60, enter. We can select the vendor, then the invoice date. Suppose I take the invoice date as of 1/12/2014, and then we can take the amount. Suppose the amount is $20,000, and then you need to select the ledger accounts. So the ledger account has been selected over here. Suppose is 40002, or even you can go for the search option with the F4 key, so that you can have a list of all the GL accounts, and even you can decide from there as well. So this is your whole different list of GL account, and even from that we can search. Suppose I take it to the rent account, and the rent GL has been selected. Now we can define the amount, that is $20,000. And moving further now is we need to take the business area. So the business area has been taken. Now we need to move on to the cost center. and we have taken the cost center over here as well. And now the internal order, this order refers to the internal order. So here we need to select the internal order. We can click onto the F4 option, or we can go to this list of orders. Enter. So you can see the last option 1004, we will be selecting that as an internal order over here. And even if you want, you can put the narration over here. Rent for trade fair 1100. And now we can simulate this transaction. Enter. Okay, enter. Okay, it says a different profit center. We have not assigned any profit center to it as of now. So as the document has been simulated, now we can post this document. So we can click on the post, and you can see the document number will be generated and the document will be posted. So you can see the document number 10000061 was posted in the company code 1200. Even if we want to display this document, we can go to the display over here and we can display this document on the screen. So you can see on this particular document that the cost center is this, and the cost center order internal order number is 1004, which we just have created a while back, and the profit center is there 11000. So now moving to the next, even if you want, you can check the profit center internal order reports also for the internal order balances. So this is how you have created the post expenses, or you can post different expenses or GL postings and vendor postings over here. And now once an inventory has been posted with certain amount of values, even you can post number of different transactions in the same internal order. Like I have taken one of $20,000. Similarly, you can take another of $10,000, $40,000, and when couple of more transactions are posted, and at the end the total amount can be settled to one particular cost center or cost object, or to a GL or an asset, depending upon the kind of settlement has to be done. So moving to the settlement of internal order, the next transaction. Before that, we need to maintain the settlement rule. So to maintain settlement rule, we again have to go to the transaction KO02. So moving to the transaction KO02, enter. We need to select the internal order for which we want to do the settlement. So that will be taken over here, that is 1004. Enter. And now in the screen you can find on the top part that there is an option of settlement rule. So we need to click onto the settlement rule over here, and once clicked you can see that the next screen is to maintain the settlement rule overview. So here we need to maintain the settlement rule with which we want to settle with. So now moving up to the first part, that is the category. We need to move on to the category over here first, and in the category we need to select the cost center. Moving to the next is the settlement receiver. So who will be the receiver in this case has to be selected, as we have taken the CTR, that is the cost center. So we need to take a cost center as a receiver in the settlement receiver part. So let's select a cost center from the list of cost centers. So the cost center I would be taking is the admin transport, that is 110010. over here, and now I want to transfer the whole 100% to this particular cost center as a settlement. So that is what has to be taken up over here. Enter. So these are the parameters which need to be filled for the settlement rule. So you need to define the settlement rule, that the category that with which you want to make the settlement, whether it is a cost center or a GL account or an order or an asset, whatever it is, and if respectively you need to assign the receiver. In that case, if it is a cost center has to be assigned as a receiver. If it is a GL, then a GL has to be assigned as a settlement receiver accordingly. And then you define the percentage of settlement, whether you want to make 100% settlement of this internal order or you want a partial settlement option. So once you have defined these parameters, we can save this screen. So once saved, you can see the message order has been changed. That means the internal order has been maintained. Now moving to the next transaction is to IO settlement, that is internal order settlement. Transaction is KO88. So we can move to the transaction now, KO88, enter. So in this screen now you need to select the order number, the order which you want to go for the settlement, and then the settlement period, the fiscal year, and the automatic, or the way you want to process the type, it should be automatic. And now we'll be executing this part in the test run mode first, and then we'll be moving after test run as a actual run in the system. So executing now the actual settlement. So once we execute the actual settlement in test run mode, you can see now a new screen has been generated which shows you the settlement details, the order, period, fiscal year, processing type, and then it shows you the parameter over here in test run part and the settlement executed. So you can go down below, even you can see over here settlement executed is 1 and no change, no error. There is no error as in this particular settlement as on the screen. And even you can go to this option over here in the detail list part, which will give you the further detail of the settlement. So click onto this and you can see the settlement detail has been reflected to you, that the sender is the internal order 1004 and the receiver is 110010. With the amount of $20,000, the settlement has been done. But this is in the test mode now. We can go back and we can remove the test mode or the test run part, this test run, and now we can execute the transaction again. So now we can move on to execute. So now we can execute the settlement without test run, and we have taken off the test run from over here, and now we can move on to execute the settlement. Execute option now, and you can see now the settlement is already settled, or there is nothing to settle as it has already been settled with the execution part. So this is how you need to do your settlement for internal order part. And once the internal order settlement has been done, so we are done with the unit testing part. We have executed the transactions and even we have maintained the settlement rule, and the internal order settlement has been done. Now we can move on to some of the reports of internal order. Just as mentioned, internal order by cost elements. The report for this is S underscore ALR underscore 870129996. Let's execute the same report in the SAP system. Enter. So we can execute this report. This report gives you the detail of the internal order as per the cost elements. So we can execute the report now. So this report is basically the similar one which we have seen in the internal order planning part. It shows you the actual and the plan values of the internal order. The internal order number is there and the cost element numbers are there on the screen to you. You can even collapse these different reports, and if you want you can expand those reports for details and you can even have a look of them. So this is one of the report of internal order. We can exit this report and now we can move on to the next report, that is internal order yearly comparisons. So we can take the second report, that is S underscore ALR underscore 870130001. Now let's execute this report, which gives you the internal order values from one fiscal year to the another fiscal year, and you can have a comparison of that. So executing this report, the same parameter has to be filled, that is the controlling area, fiscal year, period, from and to, and now we can execute the report over here. So once the report has been executed, let's see the output. So the output is there on the screen to you. Sorry, this is the report parameter which we have executed, and we need to fill the parameter over here as controlling area, fiscal year 1 and fiscal year 2 for comparison purpose, and we can execute this report now, which will give you the information or the data related to the internal order for the current fiscal year and for the last fiscal year for comparing the results. So you can see the report over here on the screen. It shows you the actual 2013 and actual 2014 values. In 2013 there was no transaction. In 2014 the actual transactions for the cost centers has cost element has been reflected as a group value. If you want to, this is the group as you can see over here. If you want to see the values as per the internal order, respective internal order, then in that case you need to select the internal order respectively from over here on the left hand side. So we can select the internal order 1002. Now if you select the internal order 1002, you can see the changes on the screen on the report. Now over here the internal order has been updated because now it is for a single internal order, and the values is even been reflecting the cost element 400001 with the actual value in the fiscal year 2014 has been over here on the screen. Similarly, we can look for the values, actual yearly values and comparison for the other internal order as well, that is 1004. And if we do for that, you can see the values been updated over here and the internal number has also been updated over here. So this is the report for the internal order for year to year comparisons. So these are the same reports which we have discussed in the internal order planning part, and similarly there is an actual line item report, that is KOB1, which gives you the internal order line item details with their transactions. So if we execute this, we run this particular report KOBN B1, enter. Now we can move on to the next screen. We can select the internal order if you want to have the internal order line items. If you want the line items of the order group, you can take the group, or even the element or element group can be taken. Now this report can be executed for the posting date on the basis of the posting date. So you can select the posting date in this as you want to have a look of the transactions or the line items. So suppose I am executing this for the internal order 1001 to 1004 for the posting period 112 to 31/12/2014. Now executing the report. So there is no value as of now because probably we have executed it for the 2015. Let's change the date and execute again. So executing the report again for the month of December 2014. And now you can see that there are two transactions in the month of December with respect to the internal order, which is reflecting on the screen. Even the accounting document number are there, and the cost element is there, and the offsetting account has also been reflected, and the internal order is 1004. So this is how you can execute the report for line items for internal order. We can exit the report. Yes. Similarly, you can execute the last one, that is the list of internal order. This is basically gives you the information related to the master data, that is internal order master data. It gives you all the basic informations, the name, when it was been created, which user ID it been used, what are the other parameters which has been filled in the master data of internal order. Those things can be looked with this list of internal order, that is KOK5. So let's execute this KOK5, enter, and now you need to select the variant over here. So the variant has to be standard SAP variant, that is SAP and 01. Double click on it, the variant has been selected, then execute it, enter. So once we executed and entered, you will find a list of all the various internal order created for the controlling area Z100. You can see the internal order type has been mentioned, the reference number is there, and the user ID, date, then user ID changed by and the date change, description of internal order, company code, controlling area, and further all detail related to the master data. Even you will find the release date when the internal order was been released for the transaction posting, and even you can see the settlement has also been reflected to you on the screen to you. Settlement and the cost center has been mentioned to you. So these are the different master data details which uh, can be extracted with the report, that is KOK5. So this is all about the internal order settlement. Now we have completed the internal order accounting part in the controlling module, where we have covered all the basic settings, then the internal order planning, and now the internal order settlement as well. And we'll see you with a new topic in the next training session. Thank you.